right, all right. How's everybody doing today? Today is another beautiful day. Today is March 12th, 2026, and I'm your host, American Lumberjack, aka Frankie. And you are tuning in to Timber Talk, navigating the political force. And we have an excellent show for you today, as always. Sorry about the late start. Things have been hectic around here, but we are on track for a good show. And tonight on Timber Talk, we are going to be discussing Americans' oil reserves running thinner. Drug cartels are becoming hemispheric as far as the security threat goes to the United States of America. Artificial intelligence is entering the battlefield. Factories and are adding thousands of jobs that the media barely mentions at all, but we're going to discuss that in deeper details. We have airports in total chaos, from the government shutdown to Virginia lawmakers pushing gun restrictions, which we all know how I feel about that. Those things are very, very, very unconstitutional, and we're going to get into that. Just give me 1 second right here. I just need to add this right here. To make sure we are all in a go and a glow, and we're gonna be beautiful after this. Again, as always, I definitely apologize for being late. That is on me. I should have planned a little bit better, but we are here now, and we're going to do great things tonight. I hope everybody is doing well as they are tuning in from wherever they are tuning in from. If you guys would be so kind just to let me know where you're tuning in from, that would be fantastic, and I would appreciate that. As always, we open with prayer and give the Lord thanks, and we're going to hop right into it. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for today. We thank you for this awesome opportunity that you provided us to know you, God, and to see another day as it has been given to us. Lord, I ask that you help us to continue to navigate this political realm that alters our day-to-day life, even though some may not believe that it does, Father. And I pray that you just continue to give us wisdom, insight, and foresight on how to walk the path that you have for us. In Jesus' mighty name I pray, amen. All right. So, the verse of the day, I'm going to start probably pulling that first because the verse of the day coincides with our topics today. And the verse of the day comes from Luke 12:48. For unto whomsoever much is given, to him shall much be required. And leadership comes with responsibility. And in America, we have been foregoing responsibility and accountability for a lot of things. And it is the people that have been sitting idly by while these things are happening and not saying the things that they need to be saying and doing the things that they need to be doing. And if you don't hold people accountable, they will act like children, as we are seeing here in the United States now. So when a nation has been given as much power as America has, the explanation is simple. Use that power wisely and responsibly. And I think in some aspects they are, and in some aspects they are not. So jumping right into our first segment of the hour, if we can get it to work. Oh, right. And we're hopping over here. Boom. There we go. Beautiful. The United States Strategic Petroleum Reserves, which are, our oil reserves that they always like to say we got a lot of, or we don't have a lot of, and then we're going to blame the Democrats and blame the Republicans. Yeah. It's currently sitting at about 415 million barrels. That is roughly 60% of the total capacity. So it's running thin and running low. To give you some context, the reserves can hold about 700 million barrels. And that is right at what we should be at, because these are our emergency reserves. So where we are now, those levels follow a massive downturn during the Biden administration. And the stockpile today that we have roughly is about 20 days worth of U.S. oil on demand. And that's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. We should be able to go a full month on those reserves just to protect ourselves from situations like this that we're experiencing now. And overall, that's not much of a buffer if the major energy stockpile hits. The current plan that Donald Trump and his administration has pledged is to refill those reserves back to the top. The problem with that is, he said on the flip side that if the war, my apologies, conflict in Iran continues on, then they might have to dig into those reserves. Now, I remember Donald Trump. I don't know if any of you guys remember. I remember Donald Trump being very critical of Joe Biden when it came down to him selling the reserves off to Russia. And now we have a similar situation where we need these reserves for ourselves, and we're about at half, almost half, a little bit more than half of the capacity that we need to be at. And the prices are going up. Now, they say this conflict's not going to last that long. But on the other hand, they're saying if it lasts that long, we need to go into these reserves. The problem I have with this conflict, I got to use the right vernacular because you guys like to chew my head off for not saying the right words. But the problem I have with this conflict is 2 to 3 days, 4 to 5 weeks, 8 weeks, September. We don't know. That's what has happened. And all while these times have been thrown at us and things have been done, we've been told that, hey, this is going to be an easy thing. We're going to just go in there and end it. And it's not going to affect us. The prices are going to go up temporarily, Trump says, and then they'll go back down. Now, a lot of people around the internet have been saying, hey, it's the price of freedom. It's the price of making America great. Let them do this, and then things will be great, and we'll go back to normal. Listen, if anything I've learned in my short, almost 40 years of life, is that when the United States goes to war, it is not something that is short. Or conflict, sorry. I got to use the right language because, the global war on terror wasn't a war either. That was just a 22-year conflict that cost us 7,085 lives, and the gas prices went crazy, right? And as much as I hate to say it, gas is a lifeblood for the United States. Some people own businesses that require gas. The trucking industry that ships you your groceries requires that fuel. And if you're having to dig into it when it's already capped and tapped, that's a problem. We're running into a major problem. And the process for this has been moving very slow. Oil prices are continuously climbing. They had a sharp downturn, and now they're spiking right back up. And the global tensions are rising with this conflict that's happening in Iran. And overall, why this matters is officials are saying that the reserves is being preserved for potential escalation in the Middle East, which I thought we were bringing people out of the Middle East because, according to Trump, we spent $80 billion with the Middle East, but we're right back there. And it's been for the same, and I'm going off the rails a little bit. Please just bear with me because it's the same old song and dance. They have nuclear weapons. We got to stop their nuclear weapons. We got to stop their nuclear program. They've had this since 1985. I have an Israeli newspaper clipping that said the same thing since 1985. And they're going to use them on the United States and use them on everybody else since 1985. So before January or June 22nd, 2022, or 2025, sorry, my apologies, before we bombed it, that means from 1985 until 2025, they had the potential. They could have used them. They had weapons grade, but nothing happened. And you would think that in that almost 43-year time span that something would have went down, or at the very least, somebody would have got hurt, or 40-year time span. My apologies. It behooves me. And now the United States people are suffering at the hand of another Middle Eastern conflict, one that we weren't supposed to be in. But yet here we are one more time. And we don't have a certain timeline on how long this is going to last. So if we have to dig into these reserves in this conflict with Iran, how does that affect us? So if the conflict really disrupts the shipping lane in the Strait of Hormuz, uh, uh, you're going to see gas prices go way up. And I hear the chatter now in the back of my head. Oh, well, we don't even get our oil from there. You don't understand. 20% of the world does, and that canal, or shipping lane as they call it, controls majority of the world's shipping. So if that shuts down, logistically, it's a nightmare. Gas prices are going to go up. And if we had our oil reserves, we could brave the storm for at least another 30 days. But if this thing carries on past this 60-day declaration by the president, according to the 1973 War Powers Act, if it carries on past that and goes into the congressional 30-day approval, giving him a 90 full days there, it's going to hurt. And if it goes on past that, it's going to really shake us up. And I don't believe America can survive another 22-year war. Do you? And I'm calling it a war because if you define war, it has in the definition has conflict there. But that narrow waterway moves roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply. That's a lot of oil. If it closes, the prices around the world go spike overnight. And that slowly but surely stabs us in our own back. Strategic reserves exist for one reason and one reason only. It's an insurance policy. And it's an insurance policy that is supposed to be for us. Yet somehow, some way, as insurances always do, they screw us over, right? And that seems to be the going case here. Energy stocks do not give warnings. Shocks don't give warnings. When they hit, and they hit hard. They happen very fast. And when they do, the strength of the reserve determines how much time the country can take as a break to respond to this new thing that's turned up. Ultimately, I feel that we are in a limbo state right now, and if we don't do something soon and very soon and put an end either to this war or find an alternative, we are going to be in trouble, because Iran seems to be the type of adversary that just does not care how you think, feel, or believe, and they will shut that area down just to hurt everyone else, just to have their way. So with that being said, I believe ultimately we are in a very precarious position, and hopefully soon we will have some type of clear, distinct vision for the future as to where we go here, because some of us can't afford $5 a gallon, $10 a gallon if you live in California. It's just not something that is conducive to the American way of life at its end, ultimately. So you do with that what you will and feel how you feel about that. I can only tell you what's going to happen. We're about 10% over half capacity, and that ain't good. That's not good at all. In our next segment here, I do have to give Trump his flowers. I beat him up a little bit on that last segment, but Operation Drug Shield. President Donald Trump has launched a new security effort and coalition called Shield of the Americas. Now, notice that's a plural because there's a North and a South America. I find this to be one of the most beautiful things I have seen in a couple of months, right? This seems pre-conflict Trump, where he was pro shutting down drugs. Now, if you have to go to another country to shut down drugs to stop them from coming to America, I'm with it. The mission right here, what he's doing here, is straightforward. It's very straightforward. It's very cut and dry. The goal is to crush all the drug cartels, stop illegal migration and immigration into the United States, and stop a push for foreign adversaries in the Western Hemisphere. You shut down the drugs, you shut down the illegal traffic. Do you realize that most drug cartels use humans to traffic drugs? Hey, we'll help you get across the border and get you into here, but we need you to go to this location, and we're going to give you this so you can take this to this person, and that will take care of you. If you do this, we'll do it free of charge. If you don't do this, then you're not going. And if you don't deliver and we find you, you know the rest of that story, right? So leaders from from around the world, essentially, but mainly in the Americas, roughly a dozen of those Latin American countries recently met in Florida to coordinate the strategy. And their focus is intelligence sharing, joint law enforcement operations, coordinated action against cartel networks, and ultimately doing what's necessary to keep the United States off their backs. Because Trump is not one of those presidents that says, hey, I need you to do something, and you don't do it, and then he's just like, okay, cool, let's move on to the next thing. No, he's going to stand on your neck as hard and as long as possible until he gets what he wants, right? So this is not just diplomacy that we're engaging in. This is regional security planning. For the first time, we have a president that is willing to go at length to secure the United States. Now, I know how I feel, think, and believe about the Iran situation. But drugs are worse than terrorists. Drugs are worse than illegal immigrants. Drugs are worse than illegal migration. The reason why it's worse than that is because when drugs get a hold of something, it's almost impossible for that something to get free without help. And if you have our nation just freely allowing that to be pumped in here, people are going to lose family members physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They're going to lose all of it. And therein lies the problem. And so I'm here. I stand 10 toes down on this when I say this. Trump continued this type of behavior. This is America first. This behavior is America first. And by proxy, we end up helping other nations out by shutting this down. How many nations in Latin America do you believe are ran by the drug cartels? Not by their government, but by the drug cartels. I mean, hell, let's be realistic. Let's have a moment together with each other. America's ran by Big Pharma. You know it. I know it. They put $16.5 billion every year lobbying to stop any bill that comes across the table that could lower your medication prices. We know this for a fact. This is not fake news or misinformation. We know this for a fact. How much is your insulin? Trump got it way down. Biden came in, took that and turned that away and then added his own spin to it, but it still stayed down. We know for a fact that life-saving medication is controlled by Big Pharma. We know this, and the prices are outrageous. If you don't know this, you're living under a rock. But this initiative, what we're dealing with here, also targets growing influence from China across Latin America, because we know for a fact that certain types of medication, we'll call it that for the sanctity of this broadcast, certain type of medications come from China. Starts with an F, ends with an all, and it has people bent over backwards, standing still for hours, taking people's lives left and right. Over the past decade, China has expanded economics and politics or political footholds throughout the infrastructure of the Latin Americas. And they've created strategic partnerships. And in doing so, that's allowed them to have a streamline to bring their medications over illegally, right? And then those illegal medications slip into the United States. We've caught thousands of people with these illegal medications, right? Shield of the Americas is designed to counteract that expansion. And ultimately why this matters is that drug cartels operate across borders. They don't have borders. You leftists and you liberals and you Democrat weirdos, borders, we don't need borders. Do you understand when you don't have a boundary, then anybody can come in and do what they want? The justice system won't stop them. No, they won't. They haven't. And they haven't been able to when they've tried in the past. Now we got a real man in office that's doing that for America. Illegal migration routes span the entire region, both continents. It's really one continent, but we'll call it two continents, both continents. And geographical influence does not stop at the ocean. China has shown us that firsthand. So the strategy is pretty simple: strengthen alliances, like protect supply and supply chains, and keep hostile powers out of America's hemisphere. It's simple. The Western Hemisphere is always under attack and has always mattered. From the Monroe Doctrine to modern security policy, the principles have remained the same. The problem is, it's just we've never had anybody in place that can put a handhold on that and stop it. Outside powers should not dominate this region. They shouldn't have control over the Panama Canal. Thank God, Panama's Supreme Court put a stop to that. Shield of the Americas signals a return to that reality. That it's not us saying we're going to shield ourselves off from the world and not let anybody in, and we're just going to keep to ourselves. No, it's not saying that. It's saying, hey, you have trash that wants to come in here. We're not allowing it. Point blank, period. Keep your trash over there, and we will keep our trash over here and clean ourselves up. You don't see people running around in China on illegal medication, hopped up on the one that starts with an F and ends with an all. You don't see that. And even if they did and were, China wouldn't let you know that. And if this coalition overall goes as planned and works, cartels lose ground, migration pressures stop, and adversaries it lose all of their influence. They lose all of their influence. And if you don't like that, leave. That's all I got to say. Leave America right now. Don't come back. Go somewhere else. If you're not for stopping drug influence, leave. We don't want you here. We don't need you here. You're not pro-America. You're not for America. You're not. Another thing that is troublesome is our next story. There's some good and there's some not so good in this particular situation. And I would really enjoy knowing how you feel about this. So our next story here is Pentagon AI. It's the Pentagon AI. So to give you some background on this, artificial intelligence is no longer just for the tech industry, right? And that debate has been discussed at length and it from top to bottom. It's now pushing the borders of national security. And that's all at the behest of other nations, specifically China, and them using their influence with technology and AI to create better tracking, better spotting, better homing missiles, and so on and so forth. And this is why they do all of the missile shooting and practicing that they do, to see if their AI systems works. And it's just a faster system. The Pentagon doesn't want to fall behind. The Pentagon realizes that, hey, this is something we need to do. And after the dispute between the U.S. military and the AI company Anthropic, well, the Department of Defense turned to OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, which most of you use. They turned to them and said, hey, this Anthropic company won't help us out, but will you? But Anthropic reportedly refused to allow their models to be used by certain military aspirations and purposes, right? Including things like mass surveillance. That is where the gray area moving to black is what I was mentioning earlier. Mass surveillance has always been something that has happened, unbeknownst to a lot of people. If you're walking around with one of these things right here, they're surveilling you in some way, shape, or form. But for example, have you ever talked around your phone and then you got an ad pop up for that thing you talked about, and you're like, how did they know that? I didn't talk about that till last week. Why is it? Yeah. Because they're listening, right? They're always listening. But if they implement the automated intelligence, is what I call it, because it's not artificial, which is a scare that certain people like to push, but it's automated intelligence is implemented for for mass surveillance. It's a problem. And that is a fourth, fifth, third amendment violation in the United States, where they are able to, go in and listen to what you say. Heck, We even know now that OpenAI allows their systems to be used in court. So the things that you've searched or typed in on ChatGPT can be used against you in court, which in my personal opinion, I feel like that is a Fourth Amendment violation, but you agree to the terms of service. However, they know most people don't read those things, and then you have the full disclosure issues, right? So that's one of the biggest issues is the mass surveillance. And then the possibility of fully autonomous weapons, which again, I don't believe artificial intelligence is a thing or autonomous intelligence is a thing. I wholeheartedly believe that it is an automated service in which a human has to input the information and then it does what it's told, right? But we'll go off the premise of fully autonomous weapons, ones that can think for themselves, right? OpenAI stepped up and they struck the deal to deploy its AI tools and their practices to help the government be able to have their classified government networks. And well, most people are like, hey, why would our beloved OpenAI, creator of ChatGPT, do something like this? The announcement sparked an immediate backlash when people heard this. The activists ran out of the woods, from under the boulders, out of their basements, and they jumped all over it. And tech critics warned that if the technology could be used for surveillance and autonomous warfare, then that just takes and puts us as the American people in a bad spot. So with them facing pressure, OpenAI went in and revised and said that, hey, we will give you this, but there needs to be some type of guardrails included. And their guardrails included no domestic mass surveillance. They put that on paper. No AI-controlled weapons. They put that on paper. No automated life or death decisions without human oversight. Should have just ended right there. No automated life or death decisions. None. Not with human oversight, because human oversight, you might have someone fall asleep at the desk and spill coffee, and now it activates some like death protocol and people start getting harmed, right? But the bigger reality is that this is a fight that reveals something larger. Artificial intelligence is becoming a strategic weapon overall, just like nuclear technology or cyber capabilities. And companies in Silicon Valley are now facing a very difficult and hard choice. Remain purely commercial and for the people, public, or help the United States maintain its technological edge against adversaries like China or Russia, who are making great leaps and bounds in the AI world. Technology has always become a geopolitical thing over time. If you understand, like I understand, that most of the stuff that we receive, they've already had 40 or 50 years prior to releasing it to us. For example, they had Cat5 Ethernet since the 1940s. And we didn't get that until after dial-up. So they kept that a very long time before they released that technology to the public. Now we're on Cat 8 cables. So how long did they have that before? And we know that technology advances very quickly. So these people are light years ahead of us. But every time we go into this, there's something that goes off. The railroads did it. The nuclear power did it. The internet did it. And now AI is joining that list as a list of people who go from being commercial and public to private and helping the military. The question is no longer whether the government will use it. The question is who develops it first and who sets the rules before everyone else does. Ultimately, what we can really look at and think about from this consumer perspective, from the people perspective, is how long will that paper last where they put these guardrails in place and the federal government abide by it? I don't think very long, because you have them monitoring our cell phones. Something that I haven't talked about is the ARC system, the ARC system. Do you own a smart TV? Oh, most of you probably do. Did you know that your smart TV every 400 to 500 milliseconds takes a screenshot and sends it back to the company, who then takes that screenshot information and sells it so they can suggest to you what you should be suggested, what you like, what you don't like. They can advertise to you properly. Yeah, when you set that TV up, there was a terms of service in there that you agreed to that. And now this ARC technology is in the courts. Every single time technology comes out with something, there's always an underlying thing there that you should really look into. I would implore you, even though I don't believe you will because most people don't read, I would implore you to read the terms of service, terms of conditions, terms of use, because they are slipping things in and you are contractually obligating yourself to it by checking that box. And you say, hey, well, I can't use it if I don't check that box. Find some other alternative. Oh, well, I want the latest and greatest. Well, you either want the latest or the greatest, or you want to have your privacy. It's plain and simple. Otherwise, you are just going to continue to be used by the system. In our next story here, before we get into it, does anybody know that the federal government is shut down? It's partially shut down still. Or did you forget? Yeah. You forgot because Iran war, and you don't know any of the stories I'm talking about now because of the Iran war and all that other stuff. Yeah, the federal government shut down partially. That means that your TSA people ain't getting paid. Yeah, they're not getting paid. They're not getting paid. So that's something that we're going to talk about later. But at the same time, we need to segue into this. I brought that up just so we can keep that in the back of our head when we get to this next story after this one. But jobs are flying high. You know, because of the Iran talk, you haven't heard that Trump's making jobs left and right, both public and private jobs left and right. He's contracting to get jobs made for the American people, and the jobs are now flying high. And in this story, you probably haven't seen much on the nightly news. The American manufacturing is expanding once again. And the aviation industry is heading the way. This is a brilliant and beautiful thing. This is some good news that we need in the United States that we haven't had in a while, because our focuses have been elsewhere. And then, you know, the legacy news media is going to beat you over the head with anything to make you feel a certain way, so you think a certain way, and then they can take you by the hand and lead you to where they want you to be. That's called manipulation. GE Aerospace has announced another $1 billion investment in the U.S. factories and the supply chains, not just making factories and supply chains, which means that there are going to be a lot more jobs created. The funding will expand productions of jet engines and aircraft parts, both for consumers and military-grade aircraft. Consumers being commercial. When you get on those little handy-dandy planes and fly to see your family, that's going to be your consumers, right? And they have agreed to create more, expand more, push more. And what that means overall is the investment will impact more than 30 communities across 17 different states and is expected to create 5,000 American jobs. Not bringing people from another country over here and giving them the opportunity to work in America. No, 5,000 new American jobs. Do you recall, if you will, a time when America built things, made things, and Americans would go in and put their hands on it and be a part of it? And then that father or mother would go home and say, hey, see that thing flying in the sky? I helped build that. That is a sense of pride in a good way that we don't have in America anymore, because no one's really doing that. We got everybody from every other country coming over here to make things, and it's nice because it's American made, aka manufactured, but it's not really American. Now, GE Aerospace is saying, hey, I'm going to give you 5,000 opportunities to make it in America, by America, for America. truly American made. Manufacturing jobs, engineering jobs, and defense industry jobs are all being created in one lump sum in this $1 billion investment into the United States. This company is no longer exporting out to the rest of the world. They're importing in to the United States. And this is a beautiful thing. More than $275 million will go directly towards defense engine production, strengthening the U.S. defense industrial bases, which we need, clearly, because we like to get in these little conflicts, right? We need that. But airlines around the world are expanding their fleets. And at the same time, the U.S. military is ramping up their aircraft capability. The result, ultimately, backlogs for new jet engines stretching out for years. Now, with this new investment, they can take off some of that high demand that we have. The demand will still be high, but they can take off the stress that high demand causes. So the production will begin to climb, and the American factories are going to be busy again because it is pro-America. This is not going to be a job that they're going to go hire someone from another country because they have the necessary beliefs or thoughts or patterns or schooling. It's going to be for America. But the media ends up questioning and saying things like, when factories close, it dominates the headlines, right? When jobs disappear, it leads to broadcast. But that same media likes to spin a narrative. And when things are good, they don't say anything. They'll wait 5 years down the road when everything has changed again to talk about how good it was. Or it's so good they're forced to talk about it, but they try to put a negative cloud over top of it, a black cloud over top of it, if you will. Manufacturing investments is not just an economic story, it's a national security story. Jet engines, aircraft parts, and defense technology, these are industries that our countries need as lifeblood. For example, if you remember how they had the big dispute over Air Force One being outdated, and then allegedly Trump was going to get some other country to make it, and everybody lost their mind because they were like, oh, he's just doing that to keep it for himself. It's not going to be for the president. It's going to be for him, and the next president won't get to use it. And you're letting a foreign adversary make this, and we don't know if they're going to put a linchpin in it to make it do things that it's not. Yeah. This type of behavior and investments will prevent that crap from happening. Because we will be making the planes faster. We will be making the parts faster. And they'll come from us. It might cost a little bit more, but you don't have to worry about someone else doing it. That is the problem that we have in our United States of America today, is that people are so lazy, and when the opportunities come around, they downplay it. Now we finally have someone that gives us that American pride to want to do these things, to want to be there. And I'm here for that. I'm here for that. And you should be too. If you're not, I'm sorry. You're probably not pro-America. Not like I am anyway. Our next story here is what I alluded to earlier. The federal government is not running. It's not. Airports across the United States are experiencing massive security delays. Hours. So if you're planning on flying anytime soon, realize that these TSA agents aren't getting paid, and you're probably going to be delayed. It's not the weather. It's the government. The government is dysfunctional. They're too busy arguing over things that have nothing to do with anything. Or if you're John Thune, midterms are coming up. If you're John Thune, you're having dog parades in the Senate building. Again, midterms are coming up. Instead of passing the SAVE Act to shore up our elections, he's having doggy parades with other senators. Midterms are coming. But that's another topic for another time. The security lines at major airports are being stretched thin. What normally would take, well, depending on the airport, because if you're in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia specifically, it might take you a year to get through there. And if you're at Charlotte, it might take you a couple of minutes, but you're probably going to break a couple of bones because it's always under construction. But it's something that would have only taken you 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Now it's being stretched to 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. And if you go to buy a plane ticket and you have a layover and it's not nonstop, look how long your layovers have become. Because these men and women that work at TSA are stretched thin. They're stretched thin. And people don't even realize that DHS is also affected by this. At airports like Houston and New Orleans, the lines have been reportedly to stretch into the parking garages. There are pictures and videos all over YouTube showing this. Airports are now warning travelers to arrive 3 to 5 hours early just to make their flight. This partial shutdown of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the government in general is dragging on, and it has been dragging on. So that little government shutdown we had back in October of last year is now creeping back in because they're too busy doing doggy parades. Midterms are coming. Do I have to tell you what that means? Yeah, I'm going to tell you anyway because some of you don't get it. Yes, midterms are coming. Go learn about your candidates. Know them. If you have ones in there now that aren't doing what they say, vote them out. If you have ones in there now that are dragging their feet, vote them out. If you have ones in there now that voted not to release the Congress's, or not Congress, the House of Representatives' sexual misconduct, vote them out. It was 175 of them, by the way. I have the list. If you want it, I can post the list of all the ones that need to be voted out. This goes for the Democrat side of the aisle as well. If you have people in office that are not completing what they are saying with their mouth, vote them out. Put new people in. Otherwise, don't complain when you have to get to the airport 5 hours early just to make your flight on time and have like 19 layovers. Because these people are tired and these people aren't getting paid. They're not getting paid. The Transportation Security Administration is feeling the impact heavily. About 50,000 TSA screeners are currently working without pay. 50,000 people are not getting paid. That means that light bills aren't getting paid, water bills aren't getting paid, groceries aren't being purchased, phone bills aren't being paid, but they're, why is it taking so long? I want to fly. Yeah. Would you be gung-ho to help if you haven't been paid in a couple of months? No. This is a political stalemate. It really is. The shutdown began after Congress failed to reach a funding agreement. The dispute centers around immigration policy and federal spending. The Democrats are holding this up because they dispute allowing immigrants in to do what they do. Why is immigration year after year, president after president, midterm after midterm, always the topic of choice? That, and it used to be abortion, but now it's just centered around immigration. If the people aren't from here, they don't belong. If the people aren't from here and they haven't come through the right means to get here, they don't belong. If the people that are here by way of refugee ship or temporary protective status, and they can go back to their homes, but you want to keep them here, you're not pro-America. And this goes for any Republican as well. If you're a conservative and you believe that these people should be here, then you're not pro-America. Again, midterms are coming up. Vote these people out. Matter of fact, there are 435 members of the House and 100 members of the Senate. Vote them all out. When their term comes, vote them out. Put regular moms and dads, teachers, doctors, police officers, put them in office. No more lawyers and judges. No more Ivy League. Get these people out of here. They're not benefiting us. They're only here for themselves. They go in $174,000 a year and they come out $10-12 million net worth. It's crazy. Midterms are coming. 50,000 TSA workers who are just like you and I, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, sister, brother, uncle, aunt, niece, nephew, cousins, are not getting paid. And until the government gets their heads out of their butt and actually gets in there and strikes a deal to figure out how budgeting and funding should go, these people are not going to get paid. So when they start quitting to go get a job somewhere else, and you can't get to where you want to be, you'll understand that you need to vote these people out who are playing with your travel plans. It's crazy. And we can't, with what's going on in Iran right now, follow me here, and I'll move on to the next segment after this. What's going on right now with Iran, with sleeper cells in the United States, we can't afford for our TSA to be lax, lazy, mad, not working because they're not getting paid. We can't afford that. And the crazy thing about it is, here's the separation that some of you don't get. Here's the separation. These congressmen can take private jets. Some of them flew in Epstein's jet, but that's another story, another topic for another time. They could take private jets. They don't need to go through TSA. But you do. Did you forget 9/11? Whether you believe it was how it was said it was, or believe something opposite. Did you forget 9/11? Did you forget the whole reason for the tightening and strengthening of TSA in the first place? Yeah, some of y'all forgot. It's okay. It's okay. But when you go to fly this summer and you can't get where you're going, or the plane tickets cost you $200-$300 extra than what they should, you'll understand. You'll get it. You'll feel it. Or maybe you won't. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Because you don't care. Not enough to get out and go vote. Midterms are coming. Our next story and final story. Unconstitutionally placed. Now, this story pisses me off. It pisses me off because we, as the people, have failed. And the system in which it's supposed to protect the Constitution is failing. I don't normally do single state stories, but this one, it has federal and national implications, right? So Virginia lawmakers have just pushed through a sweeping package of gun control legislation. And it happened over strong Republican objections. They slipped it right on through. The Republicans didn't even know what happened. They were mad about it, but they didn't even know what happened. Excuse me. The main bill is one of the largest measures to ban the future sale of many semi-automatic firearms. I'm not going to say assault style or assault rifle. That is the dumbest terminology ever. I can take my keys and they become assault keys. I can take my phone and smack someone with it and it can become an assault phone. Anything, because assault is an action, right? Anything can become an assault something. But they're banning semi-automatic rifles, more specifically. It also restricts magazine capacity. More than 15, anything more than 15 rounds, you can't have it. See, California got away with this, and they continue to get away with it. So did Oregon, because you guys keep voting in people who don't care about America, don't care about you. They just want to get their way. And you keep voting them in. And you don't know enough about the Constitution to know that shall not be infringed means you can't do this legally. Period. Commas mean something. Periods mean something. Or do we have to go back and next week, instead of holding a navigation of the political force, we have to go navigate grammar and parts of speech and punctuation to help you understand that shall not be infringed means that you can't do this crap. Firearms are already before July 1st, 2026 would be grandfathered in if you owned them before then. But anything after that, you ain't getting it. You ain't getting it. It's banned. Shall not be infringed. Why do you think Trump backpedaled and lost at the same time? At the same time, he lost and backpedaled on bump stocks. Shall not be infringed. The legislation goes even further than that. Lawmakers also approved a crackdown on so-called ghost guns, meaning that you can't 3D print your own weapons. Crazy enough, the whole stipulations behind gun permits was because of commerce, meaning buying and selling. So now they're telling you you can't even make your own. That would make it illegal to manufacture or possess unserialized firearms or unfinished receivers. Another bill opens the door for civil lawsuits against firearm manufacturers and dealers. If they fail to meet the new responsible conduct standards in now this new system that's created in Virginia, if the guns are not marked correctly and sold or distributed properly, according to their rules and regulations, they're going to get in trouble. That's crazy. So you get in trouble for doing something that in your own home. The federal government is not supposed to be able to regulate. The state governments are not supposed to be able to regulate what you do in your own home as long as you're not harming someone else or stepping on someone else's constitutional rights. And the crazy thing is, Virginia has the oldest constitution. Because each state has their own constitution. They have the oldest constitution. And their constitution is one of the best constitutions. Crazy enough, you got a governor that said that she was a independent, a moderate, coming in and acting like a Gestapo, like a communist dictator, Kim Jong-un, if you will. And the Congress that is under her is just like, yep, let's do it. Let's do it. Whatever she says, let's go. She'll vote in. Get Timmy to do it. Timmy will try anything. She'll sign anything. The Republicans in the state have strongly criticized the package, but to no avail because it got passed. They end up arguing that the laws punish law-abiding citizens and could damage Virginia's firearm businesses. Listen, when I saw that was their argumentation. Let me tell you, I got instantaneously mad. You don't argue dumb stuff. You argue facts. They tell you that they can take these things and add all these rules and regulations and stuff. And you should have fired back. That's unconstitutional. At the same time, gun sales in the state have already surged because people are like, look, you think you're going to do this? We're going to buy any and everything we can before y'all try to come implement it. I'm going to share a small secret. First and foremost, the ATF is one of the smallest federal branches. And the state, before they can come in and try to just confiscate weapons, have to consult with the ATF, who has to consult with the executive. They ain't got enough people to come take all the weapons. But this is crazy that this is even a thing. Many of the residents are rushing to purchase these firearms before any bans take effect, rightfully so. But at the same time, it's still taking effect. The legislation now heads to Abigail Spanberger and to see how she'll decide. But it's already passed what it needs to pass. She just needs to sign it. And the woman's already signed and shown that she'll sign anything that looks like control. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. The Second Amendment is one of the clearest protections in the Constitution. Quite literally, the only one that is more clear than that is the First Amendment. You could take and guesstimate and proselytize and ring around the rosy on the other ones. But the first and the second shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Anybody that supports this law, you're not pro-America. You're not. You're not. You're not. And it's frustrating. When you step back and look at everything that we covered tonight, a pattern begins to appear, right? Energy security is never just about oil. It's not. It's about stability. Cartels operating across borders are never just crime problems. They're a national security problem. Artificial intelligence entering military systems is not just a technologically sound story. It's about who shapes the future of warfare. Manufacturing investments is not just about profits. It's about whether American workers and industries remain strong. And when the government stalls, whether it's at the airports or in legislation, it remains us that are affected. Our everyday life, and there's a lot of people that end up saying, I don't care about the government, it doesn't affect me. If you buy groceries, you're affected. If you buy equipment to farm at your own home, you're affected. If you buy seeds from the Lowe's or your local farmer's market, you're affected. The only people that probably are least affected by it are the Quakers, the coffee filter hat wearers, right? Even the debate over gun laws in Virginia points to something deeper. It reminds us to dig into our Constitution and look into our constitutional rights and how they are not abstract ideas, as some of these Democrats and even Republicans would have you to believe, that these are just abstract ideas that the founding fathers threw together and they're just potential guidelines that we kind of sort of might have to follow. No. They affect real people in real communities in real time when our rights are trampled over. These are issues that may seem separate, but they all are connected to one thing: responsibility. Responsibility, accountability, responsibility in leadership, responsibility in policy, responsibility in power, and how the power is used, because the health of our nation is not measured by headlines. It's measured by whether its institutions, its economy, and its freedoms remain strong over time. That is why we talk about these stories. Not to create noise and chatter, but to bring clarity. The legacy news media is not going to do this. Most of these stories will be breaking news when the lull falls off into when the Iranian war falls into a lull and they have nothing else to talk about. Oh, Trump made these jobs, but he sucks, so don't talk about it. I'm giving you what you guys need to go out to make a difference. And if you don't take it and run with it and light other people with the same information, you're doing yourself and America a great disservice. And you really can't say you're pro-America. You're America first. What you can say is, I live in America. And with that said, thank you for navigating this forest with me. Please, please, please make sure you're not one of the ones missing the forest for the trees.